What's up YouTube? Victoria here from Lemons and Lyme. Today I wanted to spend some time talking about my Lyme story. I get a lot of questions about my treatment, what's worked, if I've tried this, did it help, is what I'm doing helping, and it's really complicated. If you have Lyme, you know that. And so I just wanted to make a video about all of it because it's hard to type it out every time someone asks me or emails me or Instagram messages me or texts me about it. So I can just direct them to this video, and also I just thought it'd be a good video to make since my channel is so geared towards Lyme and I haven't shared my full story through a video. But anyways, I'm going to try and make this video short, but I have a feeling it's going to be long, so I apologize in advance for that. And I also want to just say that this is my story and my experience, and that's what I'm sharing. I'm in no way telling you this is the treatment you should do, this is the answer, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, you need to check with your doctor and go through your doctor and do what you think is right. I'm just going to share my whole experience, what I've tried, what I think about it, if it worked for me or not, and it could totally work for you. So that's just a disclaimer. The other thing I wanted to say was that I've been dealing with this for a long time. I'm not in remission now. I am hopefully close to it, but it feels far from it. I've been close to it in the past. I'm going to go over that, how I got to that point and then how I ruined it. And it's, you know, just a reminder, Lyme is very complicated. There's so many pieces and aspects to it. So let's get started because I'm already like 2.5 minutes into blabbering. So I'm going to start from the very beginning. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. We had a river house in Virginia on the Potomac River, which is where I spent my summers. I pretty much grew up there in the summer. And Virginia is one of the top places for ticks. Go figure, right? I remember lots of tick bites as a kid. We did tick checks every weekend at the end of our weekends at the river house or end of our stays there. And we had a dog at that point, so we knew about ticks and like that dogs could get Lyme. And so we would do a tick check on her and pull the ticks off, and then we would do them on ourselves too. And I always had ticks in my hair. I mean, I remember pulling ticks off almost every single time we did a tick check, so if that gives you any idea. But I never remember a rash, and part of that could be because they were in my hair. Who knows if I had one or not. Another part of that is we didn't really know about Lyme in humans. You know, that wasn't really a thing back in the early 90s. You know, that wasn't as big as it is now. We didn't know that was something to be worried about or concerned about. I don't remember specifically getting sick after a bite. You know, we just don't remember any of that. So anyways, growing up, I'm going to start with a few symptoms that could be related to Lyme looking back, but may not have been. I used to get rashes all the time. I dealt with eczema, really bad eczema for a while, and I'd always have rashes from things randomly and pick up like whatever rashes going around school, things like that. So that could be related to the Lyme and not just some random rash or eczema, who knows. But then in grade school, I started getting headaches. I get these horrible headaches every single afternoon, and I went to doctor after doctor and they couldn't figure out what it was. I had an MRI done, I think, or a CAT scan of my brain, I think probably just to make sure there wasn't a tumor or something, but that came back clean. That was fine. So they were just like, oh, you have allergies, take some Claritin or some Zyrtec and you'll be fine. And that didn't really help. I took it anyways. I was like, okay, I guess I just have really bad allergies. So I started taking that and it would help a little bit, and I just kind of learned to deal with them because nobody could tell me what they were. There's one tick bite in particular I remember. I think I was about 7 years old, and I bring this up now because that's kind of right around grade school, or right before you start grade school. And we had done a tick check, come back from the beach, our river house, and then about a day or two later, I think I got out of the shower and I was running my fingers through my hair, brushing my hair, and I felt a bump, and I immediately knew what it was because I'd had tick bites. I'd felt them in my hair before. And I called for my dad and I said, I think there's a tick, can you check and get it out? And sure enough there was, and it was an engorged tick. It had been there probably for somewhere between 2 to 4 days. It was, if you Google online, Google engorged ticks, once they've sucked blood, that's what it looked like. Those big, fat, gray ticks that are just so creepy. I kind of like mentally freaked out. I was like, oh, this thing is disgusting and on me. Like, I hope I don't die. But I didn't know what Lyme was, and probably should have been more concerned than I was at that point. So anyways, I specifically remember that tick bite. So out of all the tick bites I've had, I think that was my golden ticket, if you will. But I probably could have picked up some other co-infections from other ticks as well and reinfected myself a few times. But so I was having these headaches throughout grade school, and then the summer before 8th grade, I was about 12 years old, we went to Japan to visit my best friend who was living there, and it was a really fun trip, great. We came back, and I started 8th grade, and I started having horrible stomach pain, acid reflux, and stomach pain, and bloating in my upper abdomen. So it was all stomach related and acid reflux related. Every time I ate, it hurt. It was horrible. I think I went to the ER once. I went to the doctor a bunch, and they couldn't find anything. And then I started dealing with really, really severe depression and anxiety. I was a really happy kid. I was super active. And I started dealing with this, like, just killer depression and anxiety. Like, I did not want to keep going and be alive, and these digestive issues, and it was all just a lot. So then, we saw doctor after doctor, and they couldn't really tell me, nothing was wrong. The test came back fine, of course. Everything was fine. My stomach was fine, even though I felt horrible. I started taking probably Zantac or something like that to help with acid reflux and the pain. Yeah, and then I started high school and started playing sports, and then I went to Vietnam for a summer. I went for a month. I came back, and I'm just throwing these trips in there because it's gonna come back up later, so I just want to tell you about that a little bit. So throughout high school, I started dealing with really bad digestive issues still, but it kind of moved down into my lower intestines. I was having a lot of bloating, constipation, pain, gas. Like, every time I ate, it just felt like I had consumed a giant Thanksgiving meal. I felt so uncomfortable. I was exhausted all the time. I mean, I was so tired. I had really bad fatigue in high school. I dealt with horrible allergies. I was getting recurrent injuries, and I would go to physical therapy, and it wouldn't do anything, or it'd help a little, and then I would just hurt myself again. And I just kind of pushed through all that because nothing was helping, nothing was making me feel better. I also had issues in high school in terms of gaining weight. Like, I was eating, and I was still losing weight. I couldn't gain it. I was really small. And I started seeing some GI doctors because most of my symptoms were in my digestive system. That was the worst of all of it, and they couldn't really figure anything out. I had a colonoscopy, an endoscopy, I had x-rays, ultrasounds, everything on my gut, and they were like, you just need more fiber, you need to drink more water. And I was like, I freaking eat my vegetables, and I drink so much water. I can't drink anymore. Like, I was on point with my water. And fiber, I was eating a lot of fiber, and that wasn't helping. I was changing my diet a lot. And so at this point, I started seeing like holistic. She wasn't a doctor because she was certified in, she got her medical degree not in America, and like had never taken the test in the US, but she's basically a naturopathic doctor. And she started having me do really high dose vitamin C, which is I kind of started doing that for my headaches, and that helped with my headaches way more than the Zyrtec or the Zantac or Claritin, Zyrtec and Claritin that they had given me in grade school. So I was like, okay, maybe I do have allergies. The vitamin C is helping. We now know that vitamin C is really good for Lyme too. Alright, anyways, you guys know this. And then I started, what else did I do with her? Oh, she was like, oh, your adrenals are weak. I did some adrenal testing. My adrenals were low. Dug a figure. We were supporting those, and she kind of kept supporting all my systems, and I don't know if she just didn't know about Lyme or like didn't think that's what I had. My assumption is that she didn't realize, just like most doctors don't, about Lyme and how serious it is and all of that. And so we kind of tiptoed around it now that I look back. It's like we were doing all the things that you should be doing if you have Lyme, but I wasn't treating the Lyme, so I wasn't getting better. And in terms of diet, she was having me eliminate gluten, and I found out I was allergic to peanuts, and like take dairy out, this out, that out, and all of it would help for a little bit, like a month or two, and then I would start feeling crappy again. And so the diet thing was kind of hard because at that point I didn't really care to stick with it, and then I started getting more serious about it because I was like, I think it makes a little bit of a difference. It's better than nothing. So it's kind of when I got into nutrition. So at one point I saw a acupuncturist, and Chinese medicine doctor, and she was like, oh, you have parasites. You got parasites in Japan and Vietnam. And we treated those, and I would like feel a little bit better. I was like, oh great, it was just the parasites. But then symptoms would come back. I went to college then, and my freshman year of college I started dealing with horrible depression, anxiety again. I kind of had that through high school, but not as bad as it had been in 8th grade. And then now in college it was so bad again this freshman year. I was dealing with insomnia. A lot of it was I hated the school I was at, and I didn't like the people. I didn't like it there, so that contributed, but I think also it was some Lyme related issues. I came home that summer and I was like, I'm not going back to that school. I'm taking the semester off. I saw that Chinese medicine acupuncturist again, and she was like, you're still dealing with parasites. Let's treat you again for those. And I remember her seemed really bad. Like I felt the die off. It was really rough. So I dealt with the parasites and I felt a little better, but again, not perfect, not great. And then I went off to college. I transferred schools, ended up in Colorado, and I did okay my first semester. I started in January, so I had a semester, and then I went home for the summer. And I was still dealing with all these issues, but no one could tell me what was wrong, so I was like, I guess this is normal. Like deep down I knew it wasn't normal. I knew that I didn't feel 100%, but everyone said I was fine. All my tests were fine, so I was like, okay, I guess everyone feels this shitty. And so then I went back for my next year at this school. It was February 2012, so almost exactly 5 years ago. It was the week before Valentine's Day. I got food poisoning, and I will never forget that night. I just was violently throwing up like the whole night. It was horrible, and I never recovered from that. That was my trigger. That's really what set me off and started this whole Lyme thing. So I had the food poisoning. I stopped throwing up, but I felt horrible. So I was like, oh, maybe it was a stomach flu. Maybe now I have the flu. And then I went to my health center because I was not getting better. And they were like, you have mono. My blood test did not say I had mono, but all my symptoms kind of matched it, and they didn't know what else it was. So they were like, you have mono, come back in a couple weeks and we'll test you again. Took the test again, it was totally negative, and I kind of skipped this part, but I used to get strep all the time as a kid. I got it at least once or twice a year, chronically, and I stopped getting it when I went to the doctor, and they said, if you get strep one more time, your tonsils are coming out. And I have not had strep since, so my tonsils listened. And then in high school I started getting chronic sinus infections instead. I would get 1 to 2 a year. And so when it wasn't mono in college, I said, this is probably my annual sinus infection. Can you just give me some antibiotics? And they gave me amoxicillin, and I started taking that, and I took it for, what was the course, like 11 or 14 days, whatever it is. And I started to feel better. I was like, oh, okay, this was my sinus infection. And by the end of the course, I was back in the gym doing a little bit. You know, I'd been tired and weak for about a month, so I was back in the gym doing a little bit. And as soon as I came off the antibiotics, I started feeling like total shit again, like horrible. I was like, what is going on? I know this isn't mono. Like deep down I knew it was not mono. I went back to the health center, and they said, you need to go home to your regular doctor in DC. I totally missed this part. So when I had taken a semester off, I saw a integrative doctor, and she did more in-depth thyroid testing than anyone had done before, and found that I had Hashimoto's, so I have low thyroid, and she started me on thyroid medication. And so I went home to see her. So that's another key, is I was dealing with an autoimmune issue. Hashimoto's is autoimmune thyroid disorder. So I had chronic infections, always was tired, digestive issues. Now I had an autoimmune disease, And now I was super, super sick in college. And so I went home on my spring break to see her. And I started telling her my symptoms because at this point I was dealing with the fatigue. I could barely get out of bed. I was sleeping 18 to 20 hours a day. I would literally get up to go to class and just come home and go back to sleep. I was so tired. I could barely see. I was having blurry vision. I had to sit in the very front row of all my classes because I couldn't see the board. Ear ringing, brain fog, aches everywhere, fevers off and on. I felt like I was dying. I could barely stand up long enough to take a shower. So I went home to see her and I just started listing these symptoms. And before I even finished listing them, he immediately goes, I think you have Lyme disease. I think that's what's going on. She wasn't a specialist in it. She didn't know about chronic Lyme. She just goes, the ticks they're out more. It's been warmer, longer in the year. You could have gotten bit. You're in Colorado, or you could have got bit here when you were home over winter break even. I'm starting a doxycycline. You're gonna go get your blood tested, the 2-tier test, the normal CDC testing. And she was like, you need to go find a Lyme literate doctor because that's not my specialty. But so she was my lifesaver because even though my test came back negative, my CDC test came back negative, she started me on doxy anyways. And she called me and said, your tests are negative, find a Lyme literate physician because that's what you have. And she knew it was more complicated than just the test and just, a week of doxycycline. So she gave me like a refilling prescription, like a month long, that I could refill. So she was like, just keep taking it until you see your Lyme literate physician. So I did all this research trying to find a Lyme doctor, which is very complicated. You guys can shoot me an email if you need help with resources in terms of finding one near you. I called a bunch of doctors, some of the top doctors on the East Coast, and ended up just going with the one who could get me in the soonest. And that was somebody who could get me in right after I finished school for the summer, or for the spring semester. So I was on summer break and I was like, I need to see someone as soon as possible. If you'll take me, I'm coming. And they're like, yeah, we have an opening, come in when you get home from school. So I flew home from Colorado to DC. The doxycycline was helping a lot. It helped a lot. It was back to moving. I wasn't sleeping as much. Things were getting better. And so I was like, this is great. I knew I had Lyme. I remember I had done a bunch of research right before I'd gone home for spring break. And I was like, it's got to be Lyme disease. My symptoms match. I don't even know what this is. I'd heard of it once before. And she said Lyme. And I was like, I knew it. Fuck yeah. So then I saw my Lyme doctor who was in Maryland and started on the antibiotics. I ended up having Lyme. I had, it wasn't bronchitis, I don't think. Maybe it was bronchitis. I had bronchitis. Apparently I'd had that infection for like months. So we treated that. We started treating the Lyme, Ehrlichia, Babesia, and Bartonella. And I just did the antibiotic route and was constantly switching them. We did parasite treatment too because of my digestive issues. And then I was on, so that was June 2012. I was on antibiotics for a year and a half. And then I got a PICC line placed in my arm for IV antibiotics. And I was doing IV twice a day, every day, 7 days a week. And it wasn't helping. I did Rocephin, I did Ceftriaxone, vancomycin, clindamycin, I did one other. But I did 7 months of IV, including oral. So it was almost 2 years total of antibiotics that I did. And it was rough. And then we tested for heavy metals and mold during that time and figured out I had a major mold issue. So I also was doing IV antifungals. And I really encourage everyone to figure out your mold issues because we realized my apartment in Colorado had mold, and when I moved out of it, I started feeling better. And I was treating it, so, but mold's a big problem. Also started treating for heavy metals. I did a detoxification program for that, and then I couldn't stand being on the antibiotics anymore. my body was done. I was so beat. I was losing weight. I was exhausted again. I was weak. It felt like I was sick all over again. I knew it was just antibiotics because they're so aggressive. They totally destroyed my system. And so I was like, I can't take them anymore. I'm done with them. And she was like, okay, that's fine. We'll get you off of them. And I was like, I want to do the Cowden protocol because I had researched that. And she's like, that's fine. We can start you on the Cowden protocol. This was right when Dr. Horowitz's book had come out. And he talked about, I read the whole thing. I wrote down everything. I went through all the tests. I like got every test he recommends done. And I he mentioned the Cowden protocol, which is how I started researching it. And then I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. So I came off the antibiotics and started the Cowden protocol, and I was still doing some antimalarials because Babesia was my worst infection at that time, and you really can't treat the Lyme without treating the co-infections. That's my theory, is the co-infections are worse than the Lyme itself. So you got to treat all that, the mold first, co-infections, Lyme. So the Cowden protocol, I actually didn't do the full protocol. I did the full 9 months, but I did a half a dose because it was really strong, and I built up very slowly because I herxed from that. But it helped a lot, and it's hard to say whether, I think it was helping, but I think also part of it was that my body was recovering after being on all these antibiotics. And I graduated that year. It was May 2014. I graduated from college and started detoxing a ton. I learned all about that. I started doing coffee enemas, castor oil packs. I got it at Far Infrared Sun. I was taking baths. I was doing the Cowden protocol. I was taking a few antimalarials here and there. And I started feeling better. I started getting my energy back. I was able to start working out again. Then I moved here to New Mexico, and that was in August of 2014. And I took a couple months just to keep recuperating, and I didn't feel 100%. That was the closest to remission I'd ever gotten, but I was like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna keep getting better, you know, like, or maybe this is as good as it gets, or how can I get sick again? I didn't know then, just didn't know. So I started working and working out, and I went full bore. I was supposed to do part-time, and then I got 2 jobs, and I didn't want to let anyone down, and I loved being able to work out again. And I had made a couple friends, and I was like doing stuff with them, and so I started doing all of this stuff, and I just did way too much, way too soon when I wasn't fully recovered, and I totally crashed in October of 2015. I crashed again, and I quit work, and I quit everything, and I was like, let's just start treatment again. I knew I didn't want to do antibiotics. I found a doctor here, and who's a medical doctor, but does a lot of alternative treatments. That's what he prefers, a lot of ozone, things like that. And so I started doing IVs, ozone IVs, kind of got back on the supplements. I was doing a couple herbs, some Byron White formulas, things like that, and I just felt like I was getting sicker and sicker, and then we're like, all right, we're gonna put in a port. So I got a chest port put in, because I didn't want a PICC line again. This is easier, like a port way better. So if you're thinking about PICC line or a port, I say get a port. But I got the port placed and started lots of IVs. I was doing peroxide, vitamin C, a couple other things, glutathione, things like that. I hated it. The peroxide, I cannot stand doing hydrogen peroxide. It might be a herx, but I think it's just a negative reaction, and I knew I wasn't liking it. I was like, I can't do peroxide anymore. I'm done. I need a break from IVs. I did that for a few months, like 4 months, 3 or 4 months, and I was like, I need a break. And then around that same time, right before I quit work, I started something called bee venom therapy. So it's where I go get stung by bees, and I can make a whole video on that. I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm just going to say that's part of my protocol. I really believe in it. Quickly, let me tell you that my immunoglobulin levels are the highest they've ever been since I started doing bees. My thyroid is the most stable it's ever been. The blood works since I started bees. I'm still on thyroid medication, but I'm not adjusting it every month or 3 months. And it does help with pain. And and I think it helps just overall rebuilding my immune system, strengthening my immune system. I can make a video on that, leave a comment below if you want me to, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So I was doing bees, I was doing these IVs, and I was like, I need a break. I backed off of bees, just doing less of them. I stopped doing the IVs. I was just kind of doing some supplemental supportive therapies. And then I saw this Chinese medicine doctor here, and she was like, you have strep, you have bronchitis, not bronchitis, mycoplasma, pneumonia, you need to be on antibiotics. And I was like, I don't want to do antibiotics again. She was like, I'm a Chinese medicine doctor, I don't use antibiotics a lot, but you need these. And so I talked with my doctor, and he's like, okay, we're gonna go back on antibiotics because you feel like crap. I think the Lyme is back full force and you're dealing with strep and pneumonia. So I started on antibiotics. I started on oral at first, and then I was like, I can't do the oral because of my gut. Like, I just can't take it. My gut can't take it anymore. And he's like, okay, then we're gonna start IV antibiotics. So I agreed to do Rocephin once a week, or azithromycin once a week, along with ozone IVs, because my doctor believes that the ozone allows the, kind of breaks biofilms and allows the antibiotic to get deeper. I also tried the antibiotic that Dr. Horowitz is big on right now, Dapsone, and I hated it. It didn't work for me. Actually, it really didn't. I had the side effects. So one of the side effects of Dapsone is that it lowers your oxygen levels, which is really bad with Lyme because Lyme hates oxygen rich environment, so you want to make sure you're getting your oxygen levels, keeping those high. So Dapsone didn't work. The zithromycin, I was feeling side effects of. I was like, fine, I'll try Rocephin. And that worked for about 2 months. It seemed to be helping a little, but not a lot. I was dealing with so much fatigue, like the worst fatigue I'd ever felt in my entire life. I could not lift my head off my pillow. I could barely sit up long enough to eat. I felt miserable for 6 to 8 months. It was that way this year, this 2016, from about February 2016 to August 2016, when I finally was like, I'm done with antibiotics. I'm not touching them again. We'll do other IVs. I can't do it. So I stopped all antibiotics, and it was the best decision I made. I slowly started feeling better. I've kind of plateaued right now, but here's what I'm doing right now. Here's my routine, is that I'm doing ozone IVs. I do ALA, which is alpha lipoic acid, helps detox your liver. I do phenylbutyrate IVs, which help also detox. I was doing turmeric or curcumin IVs to help with inflammation, but the price on those skyrocketed, so I switched to phenylbutyrate. I do ozone saunas once a week. I do my typical detoxing. I have a blog post on that, I'll link below. I do bees twice a week, bee venom therapy twice a week. I do craniosacral therapy as a supportive therapy. And then I started seeing a chiropractor who's amazing at applied kinesiology and is helping my gut. I treated parasites with him, fungal infections, candida. Now we're dealing with SIBO, which is the hardest one to treat. He's helping detox my liver and support my adrenals. He doesn't believe that you can heal your gut unless your adrenals are healed, because, guys, if your adrenals aren't supported and working properly, they take everything away. They're not sending energy to your gut to digest food or heal infections. They send it to your main organs to keep you alive. They've done studies that show if your adrenals are depleted and you're in adrenal fatigue, you can actually develop ulcers and all. It takes away from the mucosal lining. So I'm working with him on my gut, which is helping a lot. Not perfect, but helping. So that is what I'm doing right now, treatment-wise. The gut is the biggest part. My diet is key. It's really hard. I'm not perfect on any of that. It's frustrating and a long experience, but that's my routine right now. I had a few videos back with like a week of treatment, and most of that's the same except for the fact that I'm doing bees twice a week and no more antibiotics, lots of ozone. So I do 4 IVs a week. Ozone, ALA, ozone, phenylbutyrate. Oh, silver! And I do silver IV. So after my ozone, I do a silver IV. I do Argentin 23, colloidal silver. So that's supposed to be amazing for killing stuff. I think it's helping. I herx from it. And I think that's also key to my treatment at the moment. So diet and those silver, I think, are the 2 biggest things that I'm supportive of. And I take all my supplements. I made a supplement video a few videos back as well, but that changes constantly. So those supplements are a little different right now, but it was the main idea. Wow, this is gonna be a long video and I've been talking a lot. I apologize, but I wanted to share everything, and I think that is everything. I hope that made sense. I get the question a lot, how do you fund treatment? When I first started treatment, when I did the 2 years of antibiotics, my dad was working and we had fantastic insurance. So I actually had really good insurance that covered everything but my supplements. They covered my antibiotics, all my IV stuff. They covered, I'm pretty sure they covered my appointments when we submitted them. They just didn't cover the other stuff. Now I am lucky enough that my parents are retired now, which has made things more difficult, but lucky enough that we've had savings that we can use, and I'm also using my grad school savings. So that's been really kind of heartbreaking because I had a lot of money saved up for grad school, and it was like, well, I can't go to school if I'm not better, but I don't want to use that money to pay for this because then I can't pay for school. So it was like, I just have to use it because I'm not going to be able to go to school if I'm not better. So I'm using my grad school savings. I'll have to be in lots of debt after grad school, but hopefully I can pay it all off. Other people do, right? So I get that question a lot, and that's just, you know, I'm just kind of, we're fortunate in that position, and that we had savings that I can use towards treatment. It sucks we're using up the savings, but you know, everyone wants me to get better. I want to get better. My parents want me to get better so that I'm out of the house. I want to be out of the house too. So yeah, that's my story. It's long and it's complicated and confusing. I have treated co-infections, Lyme itself, mold, heavy metals. I'm going to go back to heavy metal treatment eventually, but my body's just not strong enough for it yet. Parasites, fungal infections, SIBO, all the gut issues, still treating that. I did the DNA connections lab test recently and had 2 strains of Lyme, and Ehrlichia is what came back, which was surprising. I didn't know I had Ehrlichia, so we've been kind of focusing on that. I've been taking some supplements for that, some herbs, I mean, for killing that. Yeah, it's a lot and it's complicated. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Feel free to shoot me an email. It's lemonsandlime@outlook.com. I'll link it below. Feel free to check out my blog. I have part of my story on there. I should probably update it. Yeah, you know, I'm still in the process of trying to figure out what works, and I think the big keys are our diet is huge, unbelievably huge, because 80% of your immune system's in your gut, and if your gut isn't healthy, the rest of you isn't going to be healthy. Detoxing, and then if you're really sick with Lyme, finding the right protocol. And I'm not going to say what that is for you because it's different for everyone. I will never touch antibiotics again. They saved my life. I really think that they helped when I started taking them, but I took them too long. And I had been on antibiotics for so much of my life because of chronic sinus and strep, so my gut's just been a wreck from all of that, and it's repairing that, which is taking a long time. So hopefully the stuff I'm doing now will work. It's an up and down process. I plateau, readjust, and just keep going. So people always ask me, is what you're doing working? I hope it's working. I can't say 100% for sure this is the answer. But I'm trying it, and if I get better and reach remission, I'll let you know. You guys will be the first to know. You see it on Instagram. You'll see it probably in a video and on my blog, and everywhere in between. So I'm going to let you guys go. I'm sorry for how long this video is, but I hope it was helpful and informative, and that you get something out of it. Again, don't forget to contact me if you have any questions. Share this video if you know somebody with Lyme who's lost. There's a path out there, and it might be confusing and windy and hard to find, but it's there, so don't worry. There's support systems now too. There's a lot of people on social media and people to talk to. Don't hesitate to email, to leave a comment, to DM me on Instagram. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.